Okay, this is where things get super real. I've been at this dress now for months, I want to say, and it's not this exact dress that I've been at it for months. I can't even talk at this point. I've had like very little sleep. The Paravel Ball is tomorrow, and I started trying to design this dress for the Paravel Ball months ago when we first got tickets. And I loved this fabric. I absolutely adored it. And I thought this would be perfect because it's part of the autumn court and the colors are like red and black, right? So I started out making a version of this, which I loved. And actually there's an underskirt here that's a crimson red, like crushed satin underskirt that I put together. And I even went so far as I spent tons of time making my own petticoat and everything for it to make it really flowy. I ended up not wanting to use the petticoat because it felt like it was almost too much. And the dress that I had initially started making for this with the same fabric ended up as part of the Scarlet Pirate cosplay that I had put together that went viral on TikTok and Instagram. And as much as I love it, I absolutely love it, I felt like there was something missing with that dress, and I really wasn't like super keen on using it. So I went back to the drawing board, and I'm super inspired. I talk about her all the time because I absolutely am just enthralled with her work. She is an amazing crafter. She's an amazing artist. She is just an amazing human being in general. Is Charity Grace, and she made this, and she's kind of well known for making these really beautiful mermaid gowns, like ball gowns. And she goes to some of the fairy and fantasy balls out on the East Coast. So I wanted to do something that was kind of inspired by that. And I loved her technique for using a corset. So I got a corset here. It took forever for this thing to come in. That's another reason why I'm like doing this at the 11th hour, is because the corset didn't come in until just like maybe a week or so ago. So I started putting this together. And then as I was trying different like designs and different ideas out using different fabrics, the same fabric but in different colors. And that's where a lot of like the purple, like the violet witchy type costume that I put together around Halloween, that's where that one came from, because I wanted to try a different belt sort of look to see, wow, would this be something kind of cool for the Paravel Ball? Can I do this in red? And so I used a corset for that one as well, and I really liked the way that the look came out. So I felt like I had nailed down like the pattern I really wanted, but I really wanted to put it together using the technique of actually sewing the skirt portion to the corset itself, the way that Charity Grace did for her mermaid outfit. So that's what I'm sitting here doing right now. And unfortunately, like, it has been nothing but one thing after another this week that has prevented me from being able to work on this as much as I really need to. And I literally only have until tomorrow afternoon. So, for example, we had the Santa Ana winds that came through that knocked out power for a full 24 hours, which meant that I had an entire 24 hours where I couldn't use my sewing machine. I couldn't do anything. And so much of this project requires the use of electricity, like using an iron, using the sewing machine, using my serger. And yeah, I had no power. So I ended up going to a friend's house yesterday. First, I went to the gym, and I kind of like, I had a like rage session with my personal trainer, and she was kind enough to let me come over to her house afterwards and use her electricity and her dining room table so that I could work on the bell sleeves for this outfit, which I got done. I'm super stoked with. They came out looking absolutely perfect. And then I come home, and my dog had peed on an entire yard of this fabric here. And it's expensive fabric. It is not a cheap fabric, and I can't clean it. So I had to cut and salvage everything that I could out of the fabric itself. So I'm basically working 1 yard down, which I always buy a little bit extra anyway, so I think I'm okay for the most part. And then I try to sit down, and I need to serge the top portion of this because I really hate using, it's basically called gathering. It's a gathering stitch, and I have a gathering foot for my sewing machine, but I've never used it, and I actually prefer to use my serger. Well, my needle broke on my serger, so I had to sit and try to fix that, and then I couldn't get the settings just right. So once I got the settings right this morning, like, I've been, no joke, up until midnight last night, and I was up at 6 o'clock this morning working on this dress to try to get it done. And I still have to put jewels on it. I still have to finish the collar portion of it. I have to finish hemming it. Like, there's so much to do, but I wanted to give you at least a behind the scenes of what has gotten done so far. So a couple of things that I will first say with this particular design is once I got this on, I have a slit here, like a high slit on the under portion of the skirt here, and you can kind of see it down there, the red. And I was really stoked with it, but when I put this piece on, because it's all one piece of fabric, I realized that the back, because the back doesn't fully close, and because I mean it's meant to be cinched quite a bit. It'll be cinched much more on me, but because this part here is going to be open, I couldn't, like, there was really no way to technically close this. So the way that I'm doing it is, instead of having the slit portion of this open in the front, I'm going to cut one out later, but I have this set up so I'm able to create a closure for it. So basically the opening is back here, and I'm going to add a couple of grommets, or not grommets, a couple of maybe buttons or something. I'm not sure. I'm going to find a way to close this up so that when I actually go out, this part here, I put it on and I wrap it, because I cannot get into this corset without completely undoing the laces in the back. And yeah, so like there's no way to just slip into the dress all nice and beautiful. Doesn't work with this one. So I have to have the entire thing open to get it on, cinch it, and then close it up. And this piece here, the underskirt, is a completely separate piece. So it's a layered thing. So this is pretty much what I have done so far. Once I get this all hand stitched, oh God, hand stitched here, then I have some beautiful gold feathers that I'm going to be overlaying on top, and some really beautiful like design work, and then of course all of the jewels and things here. Then I have my bell sleeves that will be here. I'll have the choker for the top, or the collar, where everything will kind of connect to. I have a beautiful necklace that I hand soldered with a gemstone and everything. So everything is going to be handmade for this. And then this part here is going to have a whole bunch of detail work with gemstones and things. So, and I still don't know what I'm going to do with the bottom. I may just hem it up and leave it as is. I really wanted to do a lettuce leaf hem, but honestly, that's like the last of my, that's the last. I don't want to deal with it right now, because it's going to take so long to do, and I have so much else. Like if I were to walk out and didn't have lettuce leaf hemming on the bottom, I'm okay with that. If I walk out and I don't have bedazzle, I'm not okay with that. So wish me luck. Okay, let's talk about the filigrees. The filigrees are just made out of hot glue. You do need a 100-watt hot glue gun and Gorilla Glue sticks, and a lot of them. I buy them by the case at this point, and some silicone molds that I found on Etsy, which were not cheap, around $70 a piece. But they were perfect. And then I just spray painted them along with some of the appliques for the sides with some metallic spray paint, used E6000 and a little bit of stitching to adhere them. Here you can see I'm playing with different ways of positioning them on the bodice itself, and I have a whole bunch of these that I made just to try and see what would look great. And once I had that part nailed down, it was time to glue them in place, which takes a really long time. I ended up having to use my dog's leash to tie them on so they would actually mold to the dress itself, and then the rest I stood there and held by hand. Okay, it is officially the day of the ball, and I'm still sitting here at 8 o'clock in the morning working on this. So I have a little bit of touch up for paint here. I just added these 2 pieces to the back. I still need to sew on a clip for the back here, because this is like a panel that opens so that I can take the corset off. And then the front doesn't look too bad. I finished the sleeves and added some little details here. I got all this stuff done. I really would have liked to have added a lot more gemstone work, but I'm running out of time. And then I added some of these chains, which are all, I think will focus. So then I added these chains, which have little detachable clips. So I'm able to take them off if I want to, and some little pretty horoscope gemstones on the sides. I think it's about as ready as going to be for the most part. I'm going to try and still make a choker so that I can attach the armbands this way with some chain, because I just have this feeling that if I wear them as is, they're going to be falling down and it's going to just bug me all night. So overall it's coming along. And as you can see, if you're wondering what this is a dog leash that I am using to hold in place my filigree, my basically, hot wax painted filigree in place while the E6000 glue dries. So that's, so I don't have to stand there and hold it for hours on end, but we're coming down to the wire. The final piece I made for this was the choker, which is both really pretty and really functional. I used the same fabric from the skirt itself along with some red cotton to back the choker itself and some interfacing to stiffen it. I used grommets and did a corset closure on it. And this way I had a method to add chains and attach them to the choker itself for my armbands. And this way, if it fell off, they didn't fall all the way off. And for extra grip, I also added puff paint to the inside of the armbands themselves, so there was no chance of them falling down, and they worked out really, really great. I'm definitely going to make more of these chokers in the future because they're fabulous. Finally, for this gown, I ended up doing a bustle that is removable to cover up that back portion, and I'm going to show you a lot more about that in the next video, along with go into all the details about the Paravel ball itself, the hiccups, the ups and downs. I was exhausted by the time I got there, but I still had an absolutely incredible time, met some incredible people, had some incredible drinks. Altogether, it was a magical night, and I cannot wait to make more of these gowns because it was so inspiring. And after all that, I did not get very many pictures in this gown itself, which I'm super bummed about, but they are coming in the future.
I almost forgot.
So as I was editing this video, I realized I didn't do any content whatsoever for the wrap skirt that's actually underneath the entire gown itself. So this piece here took me about an afternoon or so to do. It's really not that difficult, and I did use a pattern for it. And the pattern, however, is a little bit different because the pattern actually calls for a zipper back, and I did not do a zipper back. I did a full wrap skirt using hook and eye clips. So for this one here, it's a ton of fabric. It's just, this one here is crushed, I think it's crushed sateen, and it's pretty heavy, but it has a little tiny bit of give to it. I don't actually like using this fabric, and the main reason is because it tends to fray a lot. And it was right around the time that I was working on this that I actually ended up getting a serger to help with some of it. So the inside of it, all of this here is serged. So my recommendation is, if you're going to be using crushed sateen in any of your stuff, as much and as often as you can, serge it instead of just doing a basic hem, because the hems definitely, they fray and it's just really kind of a bummer. But I tried to do a lettuce leaf hem on the bottom. It's actually really dirty because I wore it to the ball, right? But I did try originally to do a lettuce leaf hem on it, and the lettuce leaf hem was not happening with this one because there's like absolutely no stretch and it's way too heavy. So I gave up and I just did a basic hem at the bottom. So for this one here, like I said, I did end up doing a hook and eye closure to make it a kind of an open skirt on the side so that you kind of have a little bit of drama, right, with the high split. And I knew that the dress itself, I wanted a high split at least on one side. So that's what I ended up doing. And thankfully, regardless of which side I ended up doing the high split for the gown on, because that one is fixed, this can be moved on either side. So regardless of what gown I'm wearing, and I could totally just wear this by itself too, just a nice corset on top. There's just a lot I can do with a multi-piece gown. So that's why I did it this way. But essentially I did 2 hook and eye closures. So it literally just wraps, and the top of it here, I originally, when I started this, I wasn't going to put interfacing in it, and because I had never used interfacing before. I'm really glad I didn't listen to myself and I followed the instructions and I put interfacing in because it makes it stiff so that you have a nice sort of belt feature at the top. So this has 2 hook and eye closures just for kind of extra stability, and that's essentially it. So now you have the high split skirt.